there's only love. You know, that's what the song sings. Love that heals, love that sets us free. And that's my talk title today, Love That Heals. And I want to rewind the clock a little bit. At the beginning of the month, I started off talking about the fact that we have these two dials. Those of you who've been in the class have heard this a lot. For those of you who are not in the class, let me remind you. We're born with these two dials, so to speak, that are just turned way, way, way up. Level 10, they're just all the way up. One love is about self-love, love of ourselves, love of our own essence and our own personality and all of that. And the other is the dial that's all the way turned up about loving others and knowing our place in the world. And I've been talking about this all month, and I finally found a video that actually shows you what that looks like, just in case you have forgotten. A couple of people were talking about this video on class Wednesday night. I'm like, I gotta find that video to show. So let me show you what having both of your dials wide open looks like.
Look, I can be a shark. Now my whole house is great. I can do anything good. I like my school. I like anything. I like my dad. I like my cousins. I like my aunts. I like my Allisons. I like my moms. I like my sisters. I like my dad. I like my hair. I like my hair. I like my haircuts. I like my pajamas. I like my stuff. I like my rooms. I like my whole house. My whole house is great. I can do anything good. Yeah. I can do anything good. Better than anyone. Better than anyone.
That, my friends, is self-love on display, and love of everyone on display. She's got her dials way up. So today I want to wrap up my conversation with you about self-love, and I don't know that I'll ever wrap my conversation up with you about self-love, because I have come to deeply, deeply understand that self-love is the golden ticket to transformation, healing, and manifesting your heart's desire. It just simply is. Self-love is the enlightenment process, the raising consciousness process, the power behind the law of attraction, and every other spiritual principle and law. It's love, and love that heals. So first thing I want to do is I want to settle on a definition of healing. The definition of healing that I want to use today is a return to wholeness. A return to wholeness. A return to what has already always been there, which is wholeness. It's just returning to that. And Ernest Holmes writes in the textbook, he says that a thought of love is always healing if you have a full realization that love fulfills the laws of life, that there are no restrictions, no inhibitions in love, which is the very life within. Healing will follow. He doesn't say healing might follow. He says healing will follow. So if the definition of healing is a return to wholeness, and a thought of love is always healing, or returning things to that wholeness, the only thing to remove are the restrictions and the inhibitions to love. And I don't know about you, but most of the restrictions and inhibitions to love are directed inward toward me. And I know from working closely with a number of you that you are mostly withholding love from yourself. Am I right? Right. So actually, I don't know anyone who starts off on this spiritual path with a deep experience of self-love. The biggest fear, the most universal fear, is the fear that says, I am not good enough. It can sound like I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not enough because of things that have happened to me. It can sound like a lot of those kind of sentences that are running around in our hearts and our minds, but it is universal. And just to be fully transparent, let me share that when I found spirituality like 20 years ago, I was steeped in this not enoughness fear, this universal kind of self-loathing experience. And some of you know my story and some do not, but let me just say that I found this teaching at one of the lowest points in my life. I'd recently gone through a divorce, and I found myself single parent of a young child with special needs, and nothing quite hammers home the fear of not being enough like an unexpected breakup, right? I was completely overwhelmed by the responsibilities of parenthood, and I was growing my career, and I was just drowning in this self-doubt. And I was angry at the world because I was angry at myself, and I felt like nothing was going right, and I needed something different. I was certainly having that universal feeling of I'm not enough, and I wasn't loving myself. Not even a tiny bit, right? So I found this teaching, and in this teaching I learned that all religions were telling people the same things. That you're stronger than you realize, that God or Allah or Spirit or whatever you want to call it provides everything you require within you. And finally I began to hear that as my truth and my reality too. And somewhere along the way, this scripture from the Bible was shared with me, and it pierced everything, and I understood it. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Read that again. I don't know about you, but I never had this scripture pointed out to me ever. God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That is the spirit within us. If that scripture was pointing to some truth, there was something there for me to learn, right? The spirit of life, which I call God gave me itself as my breath. And that breath is not a breath in the spirit of fear. I have within me the spirit of power and love and of sound mind. But the universal fear that I'm not enough seemed to be stronger than that idea. Can you relate? Right. So the reason the fear of not being good enough is universal is because it is a part of race consciousness. And what that means is that it is accepted just as a part of being human. We all accept the fact that nobody really likes themselves. We just accept it. We've decided as a whole that self-love is not intrinsic to our experience. Ernest Holmes says this: there is a tendency on the part of all of us to reproduce the accumulated subjective experiences of the human race. That's our tendency. So we're born with this tendency of just keep doing what everyone else has done. Just keep doing it. What everyone has done for generations. Just keep doing it. And when it comes to love, the accumulated experience of the human race is basically self-loathing, self-doubt, low self-esteem, whatever you want to call it. And it's passed from generation to generation in most families. And it is passed to us from what people say to us, from what people say about us, or what they even say about themselves, right? How they treat us. We begin to see that in all those ways, in many, many other ways. We pick up this idea that we are not good enough, that we are not lovable, and we do not know how to love ourselves. Man, I could just relate to all of that. And that may seem grim, but this is where a new thought has to be born within us. It just has to. And it had to for me. And I learned here that we teach that if we can change our thinking, we can change our life. And thoughts about our own self must be changed if we are going to change almost anything. If we're going to stop the tendency to just keep living the way everyone else before us has lived, we have to stop thinking the way everyone else before us has thought, right? We have to begin to believe things about ourselves that our parents did not likely teach us. We have to make the decision to heal. So I want to give you this analogy, and I taught it the other night in class, and I've been asked a few times to say it again. Can you tell me that again? So I'll just tell all of you again. It's the analogy of a stick. And I want to give credit to Reverend David Hall, who was my minister in Atlanta, for first teaching me this analogy. It moved me so much. I decided that I would always share it when I spoke about the healing process because it's just such a great analogy. So the analogy of the stick is this. Someone poked you with a stick in your arm, okay? Hurt people, right? And so maybe by accident or maybe on purpose, you got this stick poked in your arm. And when it happens, you're shocked and you're in grave pain. Maybe you're ashamed to have this stick, right? Because it's just there in your arm. And you don't know how to pull the stick out. You don't know how to pull the stick out. The person that put it in there doesn't know how to pull it out. So you just learn to live with it. And you avoid people like the person who put the stick in your arm, right? And then you begin to avoid the wider human race because maybe someone will bump into your stick. And then you start hanging out with anybody. You just kind of isolate because the more alone I am, the less likely someone is to hurt my stick. And instead of pulling the stick out or getting the necessary help to get the stick out, you begin to build an elaborate structure around the stick. You have this stick protection system going on so that nobody gets close to your stick. Your entire life becomes your identity as a person with a stick in their arm. A wounded person from something. And it's very, very hard to love yourself and to let other people love you, and for you to love other people when you have this wound that you're refusing to get help with. So sometimes self-love begins by admitting, hey, I got a stick in my arm. Self-love grows by getting treatment for the removal of the stick and allowing the wound to heal and letting your identity shift from being a wounded person to being a powerful, spiritually blessed person. And spirituality helps because spirituality teaches you that you are a divine being. You are a point in the light of the mind of God. You are filled with every breath, with the life that is spirit itself. And we can start self-love by acknowledging our breath as the breath of God. And we go from there, spreading our love of self to embrace more and more of ourselves, and we break the grip of race consciousness and self-loathing on our lives. See, if we can find our way to self-love, we can unblock the healing powers in our life, the power that returns everything to wholeness. And what did I say that was? It was love. Love. And if oneness and wholeness is the optimal experience, what needs to be healed is any sense of disconnection and brokenness. And when we love ourselves unconditionally, we get a deep sense of connection and we release the attachment we have to our story of our brokenness. We release our story of our stick wound. Can you relate to that? Understand what I'm saying, right? I believe that love can heal anything in your life. I really do, but that love must first be explored fully in relationship to yourself. And as I said, self-love is the golden ticket to every good thing you desire. Self-love. And you know, it's easy to love yourself when things are going spectacularly, you know, when your needs are getting met and you feel beautiful and powerful, but it's more challenging to love yourself through those more difficult moments, isn't it? But your greatest power is self-love, and that means learning to love yourself through what you call mistakes, loving yourself through what you call failures, loving yourself through hard challenges, through loss, and through change. It takes practice. It takes practice, and I believe it takes connection to spirit to make true unconditional self-love possible. So how do I start? Or how can I continue to deepen my self-love? The doorway you've got to walk through. The doorway you've got to walk through is the doorway of release. You've got to pry your fingers off that grip you have on self-blame. You got to release your attachment to shame. You got to release your disappointment in how your life has gone up to this point. You must let go of the idea you have of yourself as a victim, and the false beliefs that you are somehow broken or not enough just have to go. They just have to be let go. Because the spiritual truth is that everything that happened before this moment went just exactly as it needed to go to get you here. Every hard experience was a lesson and an opportunity to learn more about your strengths and your possibilities. You zipped into this magic suit to learn how life as a human works and how to love yourself and love others in a variety of situations. And you've done that. Do you know how I know? All of us have faced challenges. All of us. Some people call them tests. I call them lessons. And the overall lesson is always love. Every situation tests us to see if we can love ourselves and figure out how to love everyone else involved too. Here's the deal. In every lesson type situation, until we know better, we leave the event or the situation either blaming ourselves as having done something wrong, or we not having enough, somehow I wasn't enough in that situation of what it takes to avoid the pain or whatever, or, so we either blame ourselves or we blame everyone else, or the administration, or the company, or the other person, our parents, or whatever, whomever. We're going to blame everybody else, or we're going to blame ourselves. And blaming ourselves is usually easier than blaming everyone else, especially if whoever's in that situation is someone we love or are supposed to love. And each time we belittle ourselves and blame ourselves and shame ourselves for the events of our lives, our self-love dial gets notched lower and lower and lower. From that little girl to adulthood, we keep notching ourselves lower. But when we can start to look at our lives from that spiritual perspective, we can lift ourselves out of self-loathing and step into a firmer place of self-acceptance and love, because spiritually, our highest selves, or our souls, they understand, that part of ourselves understands that every experience we have, no matter how difficult, has a valuable lesson in it about love. Our souls know that life is about uncovering every bit of love available from every source possible. Our souls recognize that until we can have love for ourselves, we're gonna be able to see the love reflected at us from other people or the situations around us. Our souls know that. Our souls know that we are a source of love, but we are also a magnet for love. But if we aren't loving ourselves, our source is dried up and our magnet is basically disempowered. So through the lens of spiritual perfection, which is far from saying everything, I'm not saying everything that happens to us as human is perfect, I'm not saying that. But through the lens of spirituality, we have the opportunity to release the past. Release that shame, that disappointment, the pain, the victimhood, the brokenness, and all that stuff, that not enoughness. Through spirituality, we can step into forgiveness. I'd say that word a lot around here, don't I? I do, because forgiveness brings us to this moment. Forgiveness lets us get out of the past, takes our attention away from that, and allows us to be here, right here. And we can focus right here, what's going on right now, right here and right now. You are beautiful. You are alive. You're surrounded by people who love and support you right here in this very room. Forgiveness allows you to be fully present right here. Nothing from the past is here unless you bring it here with what? Your thoughts, right? So be right here. Each moment is a new beginning. Each moment is. Your thoughts and your beliefs of the past have created this moment and all the moments up to this moment. So this moment begins the new process, right? Each moment is a new beginning. And so this one, right here, right now, is a new beginning. This is the moment when change can begin. So I invite you to surrender to that past. Surrender it to God itself. Let it go. It isn't your job to find justice. It isn't your job to find fairness or solutions to anything in the past, including the stick in your arm. If there's a relationship that doesn't serve you now, step away from it. Let go of any attachment to making it wrong. Forget everyone involved in everything, because before this moment, everything is gone, including you. You're not the person you were yesterday, much less 10 years ago, much less when you were little and your dials were being mucked about, right? Carry nothing from the past that doesn't inspire you and help you now. Let it go. And in forgiving and releasing the past, you arrive at this moment completely. And then you have a day-by-day choice. Day by day. You have a choice as to what you want to keep from today's experiences. If you don't want to repeat something that happened today, let it go. Give it no more of your attention. If someone happened to step on your toe, or even if they tried to injure you on purpose, forgive them. Let it go. Let it go. If you find that you got poked with a stick today, pull it out right now. Pull it out right now, today, before you get the slightest attachment to it being there. If someone left your life, look at it like God removing someone who wasn't good for you any longer. And conversely, if someone is or something blessed you, love it up with gratitude today and ask Spirit for more of that. Love yourself enough to do this work every single day. Ask your soul every night, what do you need to keep from this day? What do I need to keep from this day? Maybe you need to have more time to think about it or journal about it or whatever, to squeeze the wisdom out of it. Invite Spirit to give you clarity about any experience that happened today that is confusing you. And trust that you need to know what you need to know right now. And it will always be shown to you. Ask yourself, how can I love myself more based on what happened today? And then let everything else from the day go. Let it go. Let it go. It doesn't serve you unless you decide it serves you, right? This page won't turn. Let self-love heal. Let it heal you. Let self-love return you to the wholeness of that little girl. Let it return you to that. Love, including self-love, is the highest vibrating energy. And when you start to have higher vibrating experiences, you start to recognize and be grateful for them, Spirit simply delivers more and more good to you. It's how life works. Forgiveness brings you to this moment. Gratitude kind of claims this moment as your good. And Spirit just says, okay, yes. You start to receive more gifts like the moment that you're in, that you're grateful for. That's how it works. That's the power of self-love. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Whitney Houston sang it perfectly. Another person who teaches a lot about self-love is Louise Hay. How many of you know Louise Hay's writing? She's awesome. She rose to fame during the AIDS crisis in the 80s and loved the gay community as they went through that experience. And she wrote in her book, You Can Heal Your Life, which I highly recommend. She said, love is never outside ourselves. Love is within us. Loving yourself heals your life because love draws you to better everything. Love will heal you and return you to wholeness. You know, it's always going to lead you to better relationships because when you love and appreciate yourself, you're simply more lovable. And this will lead you to better living situations and environments and better family experiences, improved financial health, and even better connections with animals. Everything improves when you love yourself. And your physical health improves too. And this is what we explored in the class, that everything, every good thing is attracted to self-love. And the more you stop questioning the better experiences and appreciating everything that happens to you, the more they flow towards you. It's kind of a circle. So the entire point is to set yourself free, to emancipate yourself from the discord of every nature as you fully embody your highest self. And Louise Hay sums it up perfectly when she says, when we really love ourselves, everything in our life works. Please join me in our one sentence affirmation. Today, I choose to love myself, and I am set free from anything that holds me back. And so it is.
And so it is.